Have you ever felt someone watching you, even when you know you're alone? What if that someone wasn't alive? And what if it already knew your name? Let me ask you something darker. If you found a freshly dug grave in the middle of the night, and the name on it was yours, would you run, or would you freeze and wonder who buried it, and who or what is waiting inside it? Because that's exactly what happens inside Blackwood Cemetery. A place that shifts on its own. A place that moves graves like chess pieces. A place that doesn't wait for the dead. It chooses the living. Tonight, it chose Marcus Knight's security. One step inside, and the ground felt wrong, like the earth was breathing under his boots. Something small watched him from between the stones, and slipped out of sight before the lightning revealed it. Now answer this. If a cemetery writes your name into its soil, is it predicting your death, or has it already claimed you, and you just haven't realized it yet? Marcus stepped deeper into Blackwood Cemetery, but something felt wrong the moment he crossed that rusted gate. The air was thick, heavy, like someone holding their breath, waiting for him to take one more step. He kept telling himself it was just another shift. Walk the grounds, check the fences, and clock out at sunrise. Easy money. But Blackwood wasn't quiet tonight. It was listening. The gravel under his boots didn't sound right. Every crunch echoed back late, like the graveyard was repeating his steps a few seconds after him. He stopped. The echo stopped. But something else didn't. A soft tapping. Light. Playful. Like tiny fingers drumming on a tombstone. He raised his flashlight, but the beam flickered. Not weak. More like something was breathing against the bulb. He slapped it once, and it came back. That's when he saw the first grave. A child's grave. Old, cracked, from the 1800s. But the flowers on top were fresh, dripping with dew. So fresh, the petals trembled like they were just placed there seconds ago. Marcus whispered under his breath, "This wasn't here before." And he knew he wasn't lying. He had walked this exact path at the start of his shift. The grave was empty then. Completely empty. But tonight, it was waiting for him. Then came the sound. A giggle, small, sharp, too close to be imagined. Marcus froze. Not the kind of freeze from fear, the kind where your body locks itself to stay alive. Another giggle, behind him, soft enough to question, loud enough to confirm he wasn't alone. He turned slowly, flashlight shaking in his hand. Nothing, not a soul, not a shadow, but the cold breath on the back of his neck. That was real. His radio crackled. Static at first. Then a voice that wasn't supposed to be on any channel. "Come play with me." Marcus dropped the radio. Not out of fear, but because his legs suddenly felt weak, like something underground was pulling his strength out through the soles of his shoes. He took a step back, but the cemetery took one with him. The fog shifted, closing the path behind him. Graves that were far suddenly looked closer. Stones tilted, like heads turning toward him. He whispered, "I need to get out." But Blackwood wasn't letting him leave. Not yet. Not until he followed the sound. The giggle, the thing that had placed fresh flowers on a grave older than his entire bloodline. Marcus took one more step forward, and the air changed. Colder, heavier, almost metallic. Like he had stepped into a memory that wasn't his. Then he saw it. A dark stone structure rising out of the fog. A mausoleum. Massive. And its door wide open, waiting. As if something inside had been expecting him. And now the real nightmare was ready to begin. Marcus stood in front of the mausoleum, breathing hard, feeling the cold roll out of the doorway like the place itself was exhaling. He didn't want to go inside. Every instinct in his spine told him to turn back. But Blackwood had already closed the path behind him. The fog had sealed it like a wall. And that giggle, that soft, broken little laugh, came floating straight out of the darkness inside. He tightened his grip on the flashlight and stepped in. The temperature dropped instantly. Not normal cold, this was the kind that clings to your bones and squeezes. He could feel something watching him from the corners, staying just out of sight. Rows of stone coffins circled the chamber. Dust everywhere, except in the center, where one object sat like someone had placed it only minutes ago. A Victorian doll. Tiny, old, dressed in faded blue, and its head was tilted up, staring right at him. Marcus swallowed. He didn't believe in ghosts, didn't believe in curses, didn't believe in anything except finishing a shift and going home. But right now, he believed he was trapped. He knelt down slowly, reaching toward the doll, not to grab it just to see if it was real. But the moment his fingers touched the cold porcelain, the mausoleum door slammed shut behind him. The sound hit like thunder in a cave. He spun around and raised his flashlight, and the beam instantly died. Darkness, complete, heavy, alive. He pulled out his phone's 78 battery. Before he could even tap the screen, the battery dropped. 78, 40, 12, 1, 0, dead in his hand. That's when he heard them. Whispers, dozens of them, low, layered, coming from every crack between the coffins. Stay with us. Don't leave, play with us. He backed into the wall, heart punching his ribs. The air smelled wrong, old earth, mold, and something sweet, like rotting flowers. Then the eyes appeared. Dozens of tiny, pale blue eyes glowing from the dark. Eyes too small to be human, too many to belong to one thing. They blinked in unison, and all the whispers stopped. One voice rose above the rest. A child's voice. The same one that giggled in the graveyard. You found my flowers. Marcus felt the world tilt. His breath shook. He whispered into the dark. What do you want? Silence. Then the voice answered, right behind him, inches from his ear. I want you to stay with me. The door creaked open on its own. Just a sliver, just enough light to cut the darkness. Marcus didn't think. He bolted, ran so hard he scraped his shoulder on the stone frame. Didn't stop, didn't look back, but something followed him. He could feel it. Small footsteps pattering behind him. A freezing hand brushing the back of his jacket. A faint giggle echoing through the fog. He broke into a full sprint, heart hammering, lungs burning. But when he finally glanced over his shoulder, there was no one there. At least, no one he could see. Because on the back of his jacket, glowing faint icy blue, was a small handprint. A child's handprint. And Marcus knew. Whatever had touched him inside that mausoleum had come out with him. Marcus stumbled through the graveyard, gasping for breath, one hand gripping his jacket where the cold, glowing handprint still tingled against his skin. He didn't know what had touched him, but he knew it had followed him out of the mausoleum. He could feel it, something light and small, walking just behind him, matching every step. The paths twisted into each other like the whole cemetery was rearranging itself. Every direction looked wrong. Stones he passed minutes ago were suddenly ahead of him again. It was like Blackwood was folding in on itself, reshaping, guiding him somewhere he didn't want to go. His phone suddenly lit up. 3:47 a.m. Battery full again. Impossible. He didn't question it. He used the screen's dim light to find a path, any path. But Blackwood didn't want him to find one. Instead, it led him to the oldest section of the cemetery. Graves from the 1600s. Broken stones leaning like crooked teeth, names erased by centuries. Marcus stepped forward and froze. In the center of the clearing was a fresh grave. So fresh the soil was still loose, damp, and breathing steam in the cold air. He moved closer, dread twisting through his stomach like wire. There was a temporary wooden marker in the ground. Wet ink, still dripping. Marcus Sullivan. His full name. His breath left his chest. His knees nearly buckled. He whispered, "No, no, no. This is some sick joke." But the dirt shifted, not sinking, pushing up, like something underneath was rising. Waking up, he fell to his knees, clawing at the soil, desperate to prove it wasn't real. But every handful he threw aside made the truth worse. Barely a foot down, his hands hit wood. A coffin! He scraped away more dirt and froze again. Words were carved into the lid. Deep, violent. "You're late." Before he could back away, the coffin lid burst open. A decayed hand shot out and grabbed his wrist with icy force. The skin was gray, rotten, stretched too tight over knuckles. Marcus screamed and yanked backward, but the thing inside didn't let go. It pulled itself upward, pushing through the dirt like something angry at being disturbed. And when it finally lifted its face, Marcus saw himself. His own face, rotten, sunken eyes, a broken jaw. Maggots crawling through hair that used to be his. He stumbled back, horrified, as the corpse's lips peeled back in a sick, dead grin. "You shouldn't be here," it whispered, with Marcus's own voice. Only hollow. He ran, didn't look back. Branches tore at his clothes as he pushed through the undergrowth, crashing toward a faint light ahead. He burst into a clearing and froze. A small stone cottage. Old. Abandoned. But the door was open, swinging as if someone had just walked in. Marcus stepped inside, shaking, desperate for anything that made sense. Dust covered everything except the table in the center of the room. On it lay a journal. Open, the ink fresh, still glistening. Marcus picked it up, scanning the first words. If you're reading this, you're already chosen. His hands trembled as he turned the page. Another line, Blackwood doesn't kill you. It replaces you. He read the next sentence. Then the next. Names. Dozens. Every security guard before him. All dead within a week of starting. His own name had been added at the bottom. Number 44. Marcus felt the air shift again. The cottage door slammed shut behind him, rattling the old windows. A child's whisper drifted through the room. You found it, just like the others. Marcus spun around, heart hammering. But the room was empty. Only the journal kept breathing, pages fluttering on their own, like something was standing above it. And then a final line etched itself onto the page, the ink writing across the paper all by itself. She won't let you leave now. Marcus staggered back from the stones as more names began to appear, deep scratches ripping themselves across the marble, carving new letters as if an invisible hand was writing in real time. The names weren't just random anymore. They were people he knew. People who were alive. People who had never stepped inside Blackwood Cemetery. His co-worker, his sister, his childhood friend. All carved into graves that weren't there minutes ago. And then the ground trembled. Not like an earthquake, but like footsteps from beneath the soil. Marcus froze. A soft cracking sound echoed behind him. The sound of fingers pushing through dirt. He turned slowly. The grave with his sister's name began to sink inch by inch, as if something inside was pulling the earth downward. The headstone tilted, the soil caved, and a pale hand surfaced, reaching up with broken nails. Marcus shouted, stumbled backward, but the grave behind him opened too, and another hand reached out, and then another. Dozens of graves around him began to move at once, breathing, shifting, collapsing inward like hungry mouths. A cold whisper slithered through the air. They're not dead. Not until we decide. Marcus ran, but every path he turned down twisted into another row of graves. Every exit closed behind him like the cemetery was folding in on itself. And over the rising thunder, over the shifting earth, he heard something for worse. A heartbeat, slow, massive, coming from deep beneath the ground, as if the entire cemetery was alive and waking up. Marcus ran blindly through the maze of shifting graves, the heartbeat beneath the earth growing louder, heavier, like something enormous was dragging itself awake under the soil. He pressed his back against a cracked mausoleum wall, gasping for air. For a moment, everything fell silent. No shifting dirt, no crawling hands, no whispers. Just a stillness so deep it felt wrong. Then he noticed the engraving on the mausoleum door. Old, worn, barely readable under the moss. A single sentence. We bury only what wants to return. Marcus touched the words, and something clicked. The graves weren't attacking him. They were pulling in the names of the living, people who were being claimed, one, by something below. A sudden cold wind blew past him, carrying a voice that echoed from every direction. This place doesn't take lives. It takes souls that were promised. Marcus's stomach twisted. Promised? By whom? He stepped back as the mausoleum door creaked open on its own, revealing a dark passage leading downward, a staircase carved into the earth itself. The heartbeat grew louder the lower he looked. Slow, steady, and impossibly deep. Something down there was calling him. He didn't want to go. Every instinct screamed to run. But the graves were closing in behind him. The names were spreading, and the cemetery was folding like a trap. Marcus swallowed hard and stepped inside. The door slammed shut behind him. The only way left was down. Marcus stepped down the ancient stone staircase, each step colder than the last, the air growing thick, heavy, almost alive. The heartbeat beneath the earth was no longer distant. It pulsed through the walls, the floor, even the air in his lungs. At the bottom of the staircase, he reached a massive underground chamber carved entirely from black stone. Hundreds, maybe thousands of names were etched into the walls, glowing faintly, as if written with trapped light. His breath caught. Every name was someone alive, including his. The ground trembled. Dust poured from the ceiling. Something enormous shifted in the darkness ahead. Marcus took a cautious step forward, and the chamber lit up with a dull, red glow as veins of light slithered through the stone, revealing a shape so large it stretched into the shadows. A colossal figure, buried under layers of earth, breathing. Its chest rose and fell like a mountain. Its ribs were the size of trees. Its skin looked like hardened soil and decayed roots woven together. Marcus stared in disbelief. The entire cemetery, the shifting graves, the whispers, the heartbeat. It wasn't a place. It was a body, a creature older than the town itself, sleeping beneath the ground, feeding on the souls of the living long before they died. The chamber shook as one massive eye opened. Not human, not animal. An ancient, stone-like eye glowing with a dull, sickening light. The voice returned, but now it came from everywhere. The walls, the air, the creature's breath. We do not hunt the dead. Another tremor. The creature's colossal spine cracked as it moved. We hunt the ones who fear death. Marcus stumbled backward, heart pounding so hard it matched the creature's rhythm. The glowing names on the walls began to drip light, slowly sliding down like melting wax, forming a circle around him. His name pulsed brighter than all the others. A cold realization hit him like a blade. The creature wasn't killing people. It was claiming the moment they gave up hope, the moment they truly believed they were going to die. And down here, in this dark breathing chamber, Marcus felt that fear trying to crawl into his bones. The creature inhaled, a deep, earth-shaking breath that pulled the air toward its massive mouth. Marcus felt himself sliding forward. He wasn't being chased anymore. He was being summoned. Marcus clawed at the stone floor as the creature inhaled again, pulling him closer with a force that felt like gravity itself was turning against him. The glowing circle of names tightened around his feet, the light rising like chains of fire climbing up his legs. He struggled, kicked, pulled, but the ground beneath him softened into wet soil, swallowing his boots, gripping his ankles like hungry hands. The creature's enormous head lifted from the darkness, soil breaking off its jaw like dust from a collapsing mountain. Its mouth opened. Wider, wider, a cavern lined not with teeth but rows of grave markers embedded deep within its throat. Marcus screamed as he felt the light from his name climb higher, binding to his chest, squeezing his lungs. A deep, crushing voice filled his skull. You feared death the moment you entered. Your soul answers to me. Marcus stared up at the ancient giant, its stone eye glowing, its massive ribs expanding. He was inches from being pulled into its breath, but then something strange happened. The glowing names on the chamber walls flickered, dimmed, then began to fade, as if wiped away by an unseen hand. The creature coughed, a sound like mountains grinding together. Marcus felt the pull weaken just slightly, and in that moment he realized the truth. The creature wasn't all-powerful. It needed fear to bind the living. It needed surrender. It needed panic. Marcus forced himself to breathe. Slow, steady, he looked directly into the creature's ancient eye and whispered, I'm not yours. The chamber shook violently. The glowing chains around him dimmed. The soil holding his legs loosened just enough to pull free. The creature roared, the sound ripping through the earth like an earthquake. Graves shattered above. Walls cracked. Names bled light into darkness. Marcus stumbled backward as the giant collapsed deeper into the ground, its body sinking as if the earth itself was rejecting it. The voice screeched through the collapsing chamber. If you deny fear, you deny me. The ground split open behind Marcus. A narrow, rising tunnel of broken stone leading upward. He ran, climbing, crawling, slipping as the creature thrashed beneath the earth. Light exploded above him. Cold night air whined the open cemetery. He dragged himself out just as the ground sealed shut with a deafening crack. Silence. No shifting graves. No whispers. No heartbeat. Just the stillness of an ordinary graveyard. Marcus looked around, shaking, covered in dirt but alive. He stumbled toward the gate, but froze. Every headstone he passed was blank. All names wiped clean. Except one. A single grave near the center of the cemetery now held a fresh engraving. Deep, sharp, like something angry had carved it by force. Marcus leaned closer and saw his name, but below it in smaller letters, something new had appeared. Returning soon. Marcus's breath stopped. The ground beneath the grave thumped once, slow, powerful. The heartbeat had not stopped. It was waiting.